I want to preface this story with the day that we moved into our new townhome. My brother and I had lived together for a long time, so moving in together wasn't unusual. One day, on the very first morning in our new place, I stepped outside to smoke a cigarette. My brother followed me, and we were talking about football when he suddenly froze, pointing towards the wooden frame of our covered patio. Written in big, black marker was my name, Ryan. Neither of us had family or friends over yet because we moved everything ourselves, and it hadn't been there the night before. We stood there, confused, but never figured out how it got there. Now, fast forward 2 months. One night, I went to a bar down the street with a good friend while my brother stayed home. It was a normal night. I left the bar, grabbed some food, and got back around 1 a.m. My brother was already asleep, so I ate, went upstairs with our German Shepherd, and crashed. The next morning, I noticed something immediately wrong. My bedroom door was wide open, and my dog wasn't in the room. That never happens. My brother doesn't enter my room when I'm asleep, and he definitely doesn't let my dog out. Still, I brushed it off until I went downstairs. The first thing my brother asked me was, "Did you bring someone home last night?" I told him no. His face instantly changed. Fear, not confusion. He asked again, "Are you sure no one came back with you?" I swore I hadn't. I didn't even talk to anyone besides my best friend. That's when he told me what happened. At around 3 a.m., he heard loud noises downstairs. Thinking I was putting together my IKEA desk I had just bought, he got out of bed to yell at me for being so loud. When he reached the landing halfway down the staircase, he flicked on the light. At the bottom of the stairs was a girl. She was standing there, calmly picking up my desk box that had fallen over. She leaned against the wall, then she looked straight at him. Neither of them said a word. I asked him why he didn't confront her or call the police. He said my German Shepherd was standing right next to her, completely relaxed, so he assumed she was someone I brought home. What unsettled him most was that she didn't panic at all when she saw him. She acted like she belonged there. After locking eyes, she casually walked into the living room instead of going out the front door, which was literally 2 feet behind her. He turned off the light and went back to bed, deciding to ask me who she was in the morning. That's when everything clicked. My bedroom door was wide open, and my dog wasn't with me. Whoever this girl was, at some point, she had been in my room. Whoever you are, let's not meet. When I was about 23, my friend Emily was using Tinder and matched with a guy. She sent him a photo of me, and he told her that his friend was interested. Before I knew it, we were planning a double date. Their idea of a hangout? A hike. The guys picked us up and drove us to a deserted-like trail where you could see the city and neighborhoods from far off. I already felt a little uneasy, but I hadn't promised anything. I was just along for the ride. We started climbing higher up the trail. At some point, Emily and her date walked ahead, turned a corner, and disappeared down the hill. That left me alone with him. The second that they were out of sight, I felt his arm wrap around me. Something pressed against my neck. I looked down and realized it was a pocket knife. I let out a nervous laugh, probably pure shock, and he actually grinned and said, "You laughed? You're my kind of girl." Then he slipped the knife back into his pocket and kept his arm around me like nothing happened. I tried to move forward quickly and get through the rest of the hike. Afterwards, they brought us back to his family's house. Apparently, they were really wealthy. I left my sweatshirt there by accident. Later, he sent a picture of it to Emily, saying I'd get it back next time she comes over. There was no next time. I never saw him again. So I was telling a coworker the story, and she suggested I share it here. Sorry in advance if I ramble. I tend to remember more random details every time I tell it. Back when I was about 17, around 2009, I worked as a courtesy clerk at a grocery store, bagging groceries and bringing in the carts. My mom and sister also worked there, so this place felt like family. Most of the guys I worked with were very protective of me, which honestly was a blessing. I got hit on by older men all the time. My boss would even follow me home some nights just to make sure no creeps were trailing me. One incident, though, has stuck with me. It was an insanely hot day. I just finished wrangling a mountain of carts and ducked into the little pizzeria corner of the store to cool down. Out of nowhere, this man in his 20s or 30s came up to me and handed me his number. He didn't say much, if anything, and just walked off. I was too overheated to react. The next day, a silver minivan pulled up next to me outside. I noticed baby shoes hanging from the rearview mirror. The man tried talking to me, and I remember cutting him off and saying, "I'm 17 and I have a boyfriend." Usually that would scare men away. This one didn't. That night, near closing time, my cashier whispered that someone was watching us. I turned and saw the same man from the minivan standing around the corner just staring. I told my night manager, who immediately opened his office door while counting tills to keep an eye on things. The guy eventually left the store, but just waited outside. My manager ended up following me home that night. A few days later, my aunt randomly texted me, which was unusual. We hardly talked. She sent me a link to a Craigslist missed connections post and asked if it was about me. It was. This post said something like, "Saw you working in the grocery store. You were cute. You wore a bow in your hair, suspenders hanging from your shorts, a bunch of wristbands, and had bright colored hair. Your name tag said Garrett. I'm 40 and would like to meet up." The Garrett part really freaked me out because Garrett wasn't me. My coworkers and I used to switch name tags sometimes just to mess with customers and see their reactions. So not only was this guy watching me closely enough to describe my entire outfit, but he also memorized the fake name I just happened to be wearing that day. I ran to my day manager and showed him the post. He immediately replied with, "Too young for you, parent." After that, things got weirder. I'd see the same silver van around, but sometimes I wasn't sure if it was even the same guy. Once I rushed inside after spotting it, and suddenly the man was already following me down the aisle. There was no way he could have parked that fast and gotten inside. When I screamed, he bolted before anyone else saw him. The police got involved and gave me an escort home every night that week. Eventually, I was transferred to another store in a different town, and I never saw the van or that man again. Being hit on by creepy old men unfortunately never stopped, but that Craigslist post still gives me the chills to this day. I wish I could find it again. It was so unsettling reading how he described me. So to the man who wrote the Craigslist post about a 17-year-old girl, let's not meet. Update. Not too long after this happened, the cops busted a sex trafficking ring in my area and arrested around 40 people. When I saw that on the news, it really made my stomach drop. I'll never know if that guy was connected, but it honestly feels like he could have been. Thinking back on how he looked at me, the way he lingered, and how off everything felt, I still get chills. Hello Reddit, I'm a 19-year-old guy living with my parents. I'm about to start university, and since the start of these summer holidays, I've been feeling like I'm being spied on, or that there's actually someone around my house, either inside or outside, just wandering around. Tonight at 12:15 a.m., I noticed strange things happening, and honestly, I think I might be going crazy. I live in a small town where there's not much going on here. Really, nothing at all. I hear footsteps in my attic or behind the wall of my bedroom. You should know that the only way to get there is to go through my mom's room and then through the attic hatch. But the only way to access it is from within the house. For example, right now there's a horrible smell, like wet grass mixed with something burnt and something rotten. It's disgusting. But what really made me realize something was wrong was that when I leaned closer, I heard a video, maybe YouTube, or someone talking to someone else. But I couldn't understand the words, and there was literally no one outside. I wanted to smoke outside in my garden, but I couldn't. My brain was telling me not to go out because even outside, I could hear the noises. I don't understand. I feel like I'm losing my mind, but even my mom's heard the footsteps, though outside. She went out at 4 a.m. to check what was going on, but found absolutely nothing. No one. Sometimes I hear noises on the roof tiles, like someone's trying to get through my window, but there's absolutely no one. This has been happening for a few days now, and I don't know what to do. I sleep with the windows open, but the shutters closed. I sometimes panic, but I tell myself it's nothing. I'm really scared that there's actually someone in my house, especially since almost all the houses around mine have been broken into or squatted. Anyways, I don't know what to do. So I'm going to start this off by saying that English is in fact not my first language, so there might be some mistakes here and there. So this story happened at work, I'd say about 2 years ago. I'm a female and was 19 at the time. I worked at my local coffee shop, and I still work there. I usually work closing shift, which ends at 10 o'clock. During dead times, we have to close the shop alone, which I did that day. So about 15 minutes before I closed my shop, an unusual client entered the cafe. I say unusual because most of my clients are regulars. So this dude, I'd say he's in his mid to late 30s. He comes in and asks me for an empty cup, which I gave him. Nothing seemed weird at first. The guy goes into the corner to pop open a bottle of champagne. He chugs about half of it and pours the other half in that same cup I gave him. I did think it was weird, but I didn't want to confront him because remember, I was working this shift alone. So after chugging his huge amount of alcohol, he just started dancing around the corner, which I definitely found weird, but I really just wanted to finish my shift and go get wasted with my friends. So it's about 5 minutes before closing hour. I go around the coffee shop and let the clients know that we're closing. Before leaving, the dude comes up to the counter and slides a chocolate bar and just says, "Thank you so much." I smiled and said, "No problem." Then he left the shop. At first sight, the chocolate bar seemed normal, but after further investigation, I noticed that it was cut in half inside the package, and it seemed to be sealed back up with a hair straightener or something hot, which I found concerning to say the least. One thing I didn't mention at first is that my friends were sitting at a table inside the coffee shop, but during the time that he was there, I didn't talk to them at all since I was trying to finish my tasks as fast as I could. So at first sight, they didn't look like they were my friends. Whatever, time goes by and 10 o'clock finally comes around. I lock both front and back doors. When locked, it's possible to use the back door to exit the restaurant, but not to enter. While I was counting the till and messing around with my 3 friends, one of them goes to the bathroom. It's important to know that she used the handicap bathroom, which shares the same wall with the men's bathroom. Kind of annoyed, this same friend comes out and asked, "Who knocked on the wall while I was pissing?" Me and my 2 friends look at each other confused because none of us pulled that prank. Safe to say, we were kind of concerned. Naturally, we went and did a quick check of the men's restroom. We didn't open the stall that was right against the handicap bathroom because we were a little too scared, meaning the man might have been crouched on the toilet. After that, I finished closing work. I turned off the lights, and as I'm about to enter the code to exit the building, I hear the back door open and close. I think it's pretty obvious that someone was in fact hiding in the bathroom. All that made me connect some dots. What if I really was alone that night? What if, for some reason, I ate that chocolate he gave me? Would he have attacked me? Raped me? Kill me? All that might seem like a bit of a reach, but you never really know someone's intention. So many questions still unanswered, but this situation still keeps me up at night. I hope we never meet again. This happened 20-some years ago, but it's still really vivid in my mind. I, a 40-year-old female, was working alone in sort of a seedy area in my hometown at a 24-hour adult video toy store. I more often than not ended up working the overnight shift, which wasn't usually too bad. Occasionally, we get drunk guys from the bar next door, but mostly the customers were pretty respectful. A guy came in after midnight. I was never sure of his age. He seemed like the sort of guy who was 50, but also possibly 25 or somewhere in between. He had the same haircut as Johnny Depp in that god-awful Wonka movie, and he talked in this weird falsetto Michael Jackson voice. It made my skin fucking crawl. He asked me to call him a cab, and I did. I nervously told him he could wait in the front of the store for it, and probably made up something about paying customers only inside the store, but he ignored me, slowly making his way further into the store and making conversation. I kept thinking this guy was definitely on something, and he was definitely gonna skin me and wear me like a people suit. He was standing right next to the phone on the counter, sort of leaning against it. I kept telling him that his taxi would be there any minute, and he ignored me, still asking me questions. I just remember him asking, "Do you have any pussycats?" No. I was led to believe that I could find some pussycats in here. If I had a dildo to brandish as a weapon within reach, or spray him with lube to make makeshift pepper spray at that point, I would have used it. Thankfully, this beautiful angel of a man who decided to rent porn after midnight came in. I immediately greeted him and said, "Oh, I need to talk to you about your special order." When he came over to the counter to ask what I meant, I whispered, "Please stay," and sort of jerked my head towards the creepy guy who was just smiling at us. My guardian porn renter went along with the ruse, and thank you baby Jesus, the creep went out to get to his taxi. The customer asked if I was okay, and I said I was, so he went to browse. I gave him a free rental as a thank you. I swear to God I could still hear the creep's voice when I think about this. So possible serial killer Willy Wonka, let's not meet again. This was back when I was in my freshman year of high school. I had an extreme falling out with a friend who was manipulative, secretive, and extremely reluctant for me to know anything about her. A lot happened when we were friends, and I had a crush on her, to which she found out about and started acting differently towards me. She started telling me that she was selling her body and always urged me to ditch school and let her show me things. We stopped being friends for a while, and she was expelled, and I was warned by the police and teachers not to approach, to which they never explained why she was expelled. One day, out of the blue, a year later, while we were both going to new schools and had our own separate lives, she found my account and messaged me, asking me sexual questions and making up stories and trying to lure me to her house to have sex. Despite being autistic and being easily taken advantage of my whole life, I noticed something was off, and I blocked her. In that moment, I thought back to the first and only time we hung out outside of school, where she had gotten me to hang out with her at the park near her house. I remember how she started to lead me away from the car, with two men slowly following us, creeping right behind us, watching us. I remember her noticing the two men and begging me to leave and not come into her house. Back then I didn't understand why, but I remember leaving. I found it weird that she tried to block me from the car, but never understood or thought anything of it. Recently, the account in her bio got reported for sexual exploitation, and I wonder what would have happened today if I hadn't left earlier, or if I actually accepted her offer to have sex at her house. I wonder if I would possibly be a victim of something bigger. Every day I still piece together the puzzles of what happened, and how close I could have been kidnapped by those guys in those cars. Either way, let's not meet. I'll preface by saying that I was raised by a killer. My grandfather and grandmother raised me, and when I was 17, my grandfather stalked, kidnapped, and murdered my grandmother because she wanted a divorce. I also married my ex-husband at 22, later to find out that his dad was a prolific pedophile, raping his sisters as young as 6 years old. Both are in prison for life, but these are men I was extremely close to. For a while, I was almost attracted to danger, and the warning signs were easily ignored and considered normal until I started listening to my intuition, and now I can spot these predatory type people out. They know I recognize them. It's like an unspoken thing, like when you're at a party and someone else sees something funny, but you don't know each other well enough to say it out loud, so you just kind of look at each other and kind of laugh telepathically. It's only happened twice, as they don't really get out like that, and to be frank, there aren't a lot of people like this out there. And if they are out there, I'm not inept enough at pointing them all out. But I could tell almost immediately with this man. My mom's friend is a truck driver. My mom has been taking my daughter to play with his daughter on little play dates. They met at a church group. Come to find out later that this church group is a weird extremist version of Christianity, where they all believed all white people are evil and that they are the chosen ones rather than Jews and a whole bunch of other weird shit. It's a cult. I became uncomfortable with my mom taking my daughter on these play dates once I realized how disturbed their combined beliefs were. I didn't want to cut off the play dates cold turkey for the sake of the kids, so I started taking time off work to join them and told my mom he wasn't allowed near my daughter without me being there. When I first met him, he was very charming and sweet, funny, but annoyingly jolly and clearly trying hard to appear innocent and sweet. He used a soft voice to make me comfortable and increasingly talked about being protective to make himself seem more manly. He told me weird things like that his daughter wasn't allowed to wear pants, only dresses. Then he kept offering me drinks, one after another, while we were hanging out with our kids. Not a big deal, but I'm not a drinker, especially not on play dates, and I made that very clear to him. While we were sitting down watching the kids, at the beach at this time, he set up a little blanket area and told me I could come closer. I didn't know how to react, other than to say that I needed to sit where I was sitting to see the kids better. I had already been sitting on my own blanket. He kept pushing it and said I could see them from here being basically on his lap on the blanket he had set up. He stared at me silently for what seemed like an hour before I scooted closer to him to not make things more awkward for everyone around. I sat on the corner of the blanket and tried to avoid eye contact and focused on the kids, being sure not to have him get too close or me get too close. I got weird vibes but figured he was obviously weird because of his culty beliefs and just shrugged it off as him being odd, but my gut was burning for days after that first meeting. I also noticed that he really spoke badly about women, especially his kid's mom. I figured he was just a misogynistic weirdo. He went on a truck run, and when he came back, immediately wanted to get our kids together again. I told my mom that I had to be there, so we arranged a date and time where I wasn't working. We went to a paint studio for kids, and again, the whole time he was offering me drinks at an art studio for kids where no drinks were served. He even ran to a bar to get some drinks and then brought them into a children's art studio. He had a handful of beers as he was surrounded by kids painting Bluey portraits. It was bizarre. We went from the art studio to a trampoline park, and as the kids were joking around and jumping and playing, he repeatedly picked me up and threw me onto the foam ball pit, despite my clear discomfort, and telling him I wasn't feeling well and asking him to stop. He then pulled me down on top of him while he was laying on the trampoline, to which I got very upset and stormed off, taking my daughter with me. At one point before that, I had gotten a friction burn on my wrist from sliding down the trampoline too fast, and he took my wrist and grabbed it hard, then pressed down on the open sore to taunt me. I don't know if this man is just socially awkward or disturbed or what, but my body has never physically reacted so strongly to a person besides my ex-husband's father, who is a convicted pedo. I could not sleep for days. I started smoking cigarettes again 10 years after I quit. My thoughts were racing constantly. I called my brothers and started telling them how odd it was, but ended up crying at the end of our conversations out of pure fear. My stomach was shaking. That lasted for about 2 weeks. Obviously, can't say that he's a serial killer, but the truck driver occupation, paired with his obvious devious nature, is just not something I want to fuck with. Edit. 1. I met this dude twice, and this was like a year ago. I banned him from our lives, and preferably my mom's, but I can't control her. My kid is barely allowed around my own mother anymore, as I lost trust in her after this, obviously. Thinking I'm a bad mom is up to you. I don't care about your opinions, as I know how vigilant I am in my kid's safety. I started a new job working from home just to be around her so my mother doesn't need to be, among other security measures that have been taken to protect her. 2. Don't know enough details about this guy to file a report or go to CPS, and I don't plan on being around him anymore to get more details. I don't even know where he lives, and my mom refuses to give me any more details because she's suspicious of my intentions since she knows I think he's disgusting. I even tried asking for their address so I could send a birthday invitation, and she wouldn't even give me that because they don't celebrate birthdays in their religion. This is a very odd and unique situation, and it's not going to be easy to get police onto this man.